Hey guys, welcome. This is Hernan, and today we're here at QNAP in Los Angeles County, California, and we have a special treat. We've been working with Daniel here at QNAP. Daniel is actually perhaps one of the leading, most technical pre-sales representative that QNAP has. If you heard him on his webinars, which he actually had one earlier today, we sat on, which was great. We'll talk about that a little bit, the new technology he was addressing. But again, very technical guy. He knows what he talks about. He just doesn't read a teleprompter. He actually knows the answers. So if you guys ever get a chance to, talk to him at trade shows or, get him on the phone, a great guy, and try to catch him with any questions, any technical questions, and if he doesn't know the answer, I'm sure definitely he'll get it. So Daniel, so tell us a little bit, what do you do here at QNAP? What are your responsibilities? I mean, besides obviously answering all these technical questions in webinars, what else do you do here?
Well, I do manage some accounts for some resellers, but then a big part of my job is to help make sure people get the right product with the right configuration. Good. Because no matter how good our product is, if you get the wrong one for your use case, you're not going to think we have a good product. Right,
absolutely. So it could be anyone, let's say for example, a library, a county library, or or as big as perhaps maybe a large, Fortune 500 corporation that calls you and says, look, I'm looking for this, and I need this, and then that's where you kind of start creating the solution and start talking to them about, matching their needs.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Good. So tell us a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the webinar, today's webinar, which is fantastic. It was amazing information. So tell us a little bit about the webinar. What exactly did it entail?
Yeah, so we are about to bring an upgrade to Virtualization Station, and we have a new feature called PCIe passthrough. And you may have heard of GPU passthrough, which is the ability to connect a GPU to a VM for, maybe a hardware acceleration, rendering, that kind of thing. But PCIe passthrough is very similar, except it's for a variety of PCI devices, not just a GPU. And it should have great compatibility. You basically need to make sure the card fits in the PCIe slot, make sure it has enough power, and make sure your VM has driver support for it. But that could be a huge amount of PCI cards that could fit, and pretty easy to use. So not only is this acceleration, but this could be connecting through fiber channel, connect to a SAS expansion unit, connect to a USB streaming device.
Fantastic. Awesome. So let's see, what else do we have? What is QNAP been up to? I've heard there's some new systems coming out right around the corner, maybe in a couple months. We are going to see some new systems and some new enterprise systems. I know everyone's excited about this and talking about it, and everyone's been kind of tight-lipped about it, but now we have the information, right? Exclusive, kind of. So tell us, what do we have?
Well, we are coming out with a new dual controller unit. Should just be a few months. And what's new about this unit is both hardware and software. Hardware-wise, it supports NVMe, has NVMe slots built in. You could have NVMe cache, both read and write cache. Hardware-wise, it will come in two different CPU options. A lower cost one with two quad-core CPUs, and a higher cost one with two 8-core CPUs and more RAM. And then the other side of this is that we're having an upgrade to QES 2.1, which will have a lot of features to increase performance.
Great, fantastic. So here, I'm going to stop you there for a second. For some of our viewers who perhaps don't know what a dual controller system is, can you kind of explain it to them in a nutshell? What is a dual controller, and what is it, and why is it important?
Yeah, so a dual controller NAS is almost like two NAS rolled up into one. So imagine you have two processors, two sets of RAM, two motherboards. Inside the box, it's like two NAS, but it's in one box, and it's like these two NAS are connected to one set of hard drives. And so the reason people do this is they think, well, what if the NAS goes down? If it's a situation where it's not okay to be down even for a little bit of time, it's not okay to even lose a little bit of data that's in the middle of being transferred. So this way, if a whole unit fails, the other just takes over, and they're actually enclosed within the same box. So there's no downtime, and it even has things like the RAM will automatically get copied to flash if a controller goes down. So you don't even lose the file that you're transferring. Like you lose nothing.
Wow, that's awesome. And I guess for a lot of corporations, it's important, right? Because if it's maybe a banking institute or could be healthcare, right? They can't have downtime. None of this stuff can go down. So then you're saying if it's in one box, we have all these disks, and then we have two brains. So in case one dies out, this one instantly turns on, and if there's any information in between, that'll get flushed over from the RAM, right?
Yeah, exactly. If it goes down, the RAM gets copied, it gets flushed over to the other controller. And one thing I would add is both controllers are on all the time, but it only needs one controller to run.
Wow, fantastic. And then so what happens in that situation? Then maybe, you might back it up from there, right? Obviously in certain critical instances, and it could be a power supply, it could be all kinds of stuff, right? That'll probably affect it. So, and you're saying, so this is an entry-level enterprise system. What about something for SMB, something smaller, small and medium-sized businesses? Could they afford something like this?
I think potentially. It's why we have two versions of it. So for those who just need to make sure they never lose anything, but they don't have specifically high performance needs, the lower cost dual controller, I think maybe some SMB could afford that. And then those who want the dual controller and the really high performance, we have that.
Good, fantastic. That's great. And it's good to hear that these dual controller systems are not, they're not out of the reach of small and medium-sized businesses. Now, QNAP is allowing customers to be able to purchase these, and they're affordable for them, and have the same redundancy, right? The same protection that these larger corporations do, and that's great. That's awesome. Hopefully, that maybe in the future you'll have a webinar where we can actually see more of that stuff, and then when the systems do come in, maybe we can come back, bring the camera back, and kind of look inside. Maybe take us a little sneak peek under the hood, show us the CPUs and show us some of the RAM slots, the back of the system, where the GPUs go and where the RAM goes and everything. We'd love to see that. Whenever they come in, just let us know, and definitely we'll come in and take a look at it. So, and that's good news. So what else we have in the horizon? I know you guys have some other stuff. You said there's another enterprise system that you want to mention, the TDS also?
Yeah, well, we're releasing a new TDS that should be out around now or very soon.
Okay.
And so, dual processor, but not dual controller, meaning that both processors just work together to make the NAS really high performance.
Wow. And
what's new about this TDS is that we've upgraded the CPU, so there's more cores, it's newer gen. But also this TDS can run either QTS or QES.
Oh, nice.
And I think QES is worth talking about, that we're having some performance upgrades, and they're not all in the hardware.
Right.
But really the QES 2.1 has some significant performance upgrades in the software. And I think the one I'm most excited about is write coalescing. As a lot of viewers might know, typically random writes and random reads will not be as fast or as much throughput as sequential writes and sequential reads.
Right.
But what write coalescing does is these random writes get just held in the RAM until they accumulate. And then once you accumulate, I think 256K, then you just write a sequential block of 256K.
Right.
And so that allows you to have a lot better performance than just writing 4K, 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 just one sequential block of 256K. Be a lot better performance, and this could potentially more than double the IOPS for the random writes.
Wow, fantastic. Now the TDS, and you mentioned 2 operating systems. Can you run both operating systems in the system?
It's one or the other.
It's one or the other. Got it. Okay. So it's not like a virtual environment where you can actually mix and match the operating systems and stuff like that. It's either you're going to do a task, right? And this is the operating system I'm going to use to accomplish this, or this is the other one, the QTS, I'm going to use to accomplish this task.
Yeah, exactly. You decide which features you want more for your use case, and then decide on the operating system you want to run.
Which is great. I mean, it gives you the option.
Yeah.
Right? It gives you the option of 2 great operating systems. Fantastic. Now, Daniel, you were at the ISC West, and for those of you who aren't familiar with the ISC West, it's one of the the country's largest surveillance, security and surveillance expo. QNAP was there, and you guys had some pretty neat things, some new features. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? What were you guys showcasing there?
Yeah, well, I think what I was most excited about that we showed there was QVR Face. It's our new face recognition software.
Yeah.
So we have a fully functional version right now. It's not yet released though. We're still fine-tuning it, still perfecting it. It's probably a few months away from general release, but it's working, and we showed it at ISC West.
Awesome, fantastic. So with this facial recognition, let's say for example, in my office building or my office, there's 10 employees, right? This interface, this software knows the faces, so it knows who comes in and comes out. If someone comes in and it doesn't recognize that, then it'll notify someone, right? Or
yeah. So it's really simple. Whenever a new person is detected, it has a notification for unrecognized person, and then it automatically adds that person's face to the face database. Then you have the option of going to the face database, give that face a name. And then
maybe a UPS delivery guy or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then next time that person comes, you can set up notifications for this person came back. And you can also set up notifications for unrecognized person came. So for some businesses, maybe you want to know if an unrecognized person's in your office at 12 midnight.
Yep.
On the other hand, if you have a store and you ban someone, maybe you want to know if that person came back. So you can have notifications for specific people or notifications for unrecognized person.
Great, fantastic. Now so is this a special camera that you're going to need for this? That you have to run out and buy, or
No,
is it the system that does this? Or?
Yeah, that's what's exciting. It's not a special camera. It doesn't have to be any kind of smart kind of camera. The QNAP's doing the thinking here. And so only thing I would say is it's probably good to have a good quality, like, high resolution camera,
Right.
because you do want it to be able to pick out those facial features.
Absolutely. Yep, that's important.
But then one thing you could consider getting is an FPGA card.
Okay.
And that is something I think a place where QNAP stands out is that we support graphics cards on most of our units, and now we're supporting FPGA cards, VPUs, these acceleration cards, because there are certain tasks, and face recognition is one of them, where CPUs are okay at it, but there are other kinds of VPUs, FPGAs, or GPUs that could potentially actually do that task. They're optimized to that task a whole lot better. And so because we support an FPGA card, we should be able to support, multiple, definitely more than one, but hopefully a good number of cameras at the same time doing face recognition when we release this.
Good, fantastic. And as you all know, we always follow best practices, right? And in case you guys ever get a chance, go to QNAP's YouTube page, and you guys can see all their best case, how to use something and what they recommend. And it's always best to utilize what the recommendations are, right? And say, hey, look, this is what we recommend, and this is the reason why, right? Best practice. It runs better, it's smoother, and whether their hard drives are on the compatibility list, right, that you should follow. Same thing with cameras, same thing with any type of card, firmware updated, right? You've got to keep your firmware up to date, and otherwise you won't be able to get some of the features that are coming out. Like you mentioned, some of the new features in the QTS. The new QTS is coming out. It's very important to upgrade it. Is there any situation where a customer would not upgrade their firmware, or are you guys always recommending, hey, stay on the latest and greatest? Or would you ever say, it's not important? What is your advice on this?
I think it depends. If you don't want to use some of the new features that may require the new firmware, then it'd be more optional.
Okay.
If, on the other hand, if you're like, I want that new feature, if that new feature needs a new firmware, then upgrade.
And we know these features because in our QNAP, when we're using our QNAP, it'll a page will come out and says you have a new firmware, right? And then there's notes. You can click on the notes, and it'll tell you exactly what the firmware is going to do, right? And you can actually look down and say, you know what, I don't need any of that stuff, so maybe I don't need to upgrade, right? That's kind of how you figure it out.
Yeah, and it's up to you. A lot of people just always upgrade anyway, but it's up to you.
Yep. Fantastic. Good. So there isn't. Okay, good. And that's important. Guys, if you guys ever have any questions for Daniel, Daniel's really easy to get a hold of. You can always reach him at QNAP Sales. Right? It's at USA Sales at
Yeah.
QNAP.com. So USA Sales at QNAP.com. You can reach them there. Drop him an email. Again, he's always at the conferences and expos. You guys ever get a chance to make it over to the QNAP booth? Stop by and say hi to Daniel. Always reach him on the phone here as well, and go ahead and let him have it with those technical questions. And like I said, he's great. Very responsive. He'll get that answer. And he owns everything that he's touching, whether it's a project or whether it's a customer. He will own it, and he'll make sure that you guys get your answers. So, Daniel, always a pleasure. Thanks again for having me. Thank you very much. So, and again, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, I can see it. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching our videos. Remember, we can provide pricing for any of the NAS systems you've seen on our YouTube videos. Very simple. Reach us at sales@simplynas.com. Again, that's sales@simplynas.com. And remember to mention you saw this on YouTube for special pricing. Thanks, guys.